Tonight's a really short class, but you know what? It's a really important class. There are so many people that have GERD, heartburn, acid reflux, whatever you want to call it. Matter of fact, there's between 60 and 70 million people that have some kind of digestive disorder. 56 of them have heartburn. And the only difference between heartburn, acid reflux, and GERD is insurance reasons. It's all the same thing. It's whenever acid shoots from the stomach up into the esophagus, burning the mucosal lining, and then later on the muscle of the esophagus. So they call it different names. I had someone come to me one time, and she said, I thought I was having heartburn, but the doctor said, no, I have GERD. That's the exact same thing. But again, it's the insurance company will not pay for heartburn medicine, but it will pay for GERD medicine. Then there's people that are constipated, and these often go hand in hand, but not always, but many, many times. There's been about $120 million a year spent on medication, and we're talking about doctor-prescribed medication for digestive disorders. There has been $4 billion over-the-counter, $4 billion over-the-counter medicines taken for heartburn and digestive disorders. That's huge. That is just unreal. What causes this whole thing is the mucosal lining of the esophagus. So this is the stomach, and this is the lining in the stomach, and it goes clean up to the mouth, the esophagus. The lining has a lot of different functions. One is it keeps it lubricated, so when you swallow something, it slides down easy. You know, I like this analogy. It's a lot easier to push someone in a sled on snow than what it is on grass, because the snow acts kind of like a lubricant, and it's easier to go down. Same with swallowing things. I decided to do this kind of in a memory of my mother. My mother, probably 15 years before she died, was taken to the hospital. They tried to put a scope in and they couldn't. The reason my mom went to the hospital was slowly, over a long period of time, she couldn't eat foods anymore. She couldn't even drink liquids anymore. First she couldn't eat chicken, then she couldn't eat meat, then she had to puree her food, then she had to cook and puree like baby food, then she was on plain liquids, and she couldn't even swallow those anymore. And her mother died of esophageal cancer. Matter of fact, I had a couple uncles that died of esophageal cancer and a couple cousins. So it kind of ran in the family. And whenever they tried to put a scope down in, they couldn't. They said, your esophagus is basically dead and dried out. And they said, we're afraid that if we do it here, that it will split and you could hemorrhage. So we're going to get a specialist to come in that specializes in this. And we may have to remove part of your esophagus and bring your stomach from where it is in the abdomen up in between your lungs. They were planning all this stuff. And I had been an herbalist probably about 10 to 15 years by then. And I said, Mom, please, just come home. Let me do my thing. You know, don't let them do this to you. And she said, okay, I'll either go home and I'll die, or you'll help me. But I don't want this done either. Well, to understand what was going on with my mom, because my mom had terrible acid reflux almost ever since I've been born, and I'm 62 years old. On the top of the stomach, right here, there is a sphincter muscle. A sphincter muscle is the kind of muscle that's on your lips, so you can like purse your lips and blow, like to whistle, or at your rectum. You know how your rectum is closed. You have a bowel movement, it can open up pretty big, and then it closes again. That's what a sphincter muscle does, and you have one on the top of your stomach. Doctors will tell you that you have a stomach valve. They're full of crap. It's actually a muscle. So think of this rubber band as a sphincter muscle. If you would have a tubing like this, and you put a rubber band on that, whenever you weren't pushing it open, it would close and pinch it off. You all with me now?
Yep.
Okay. Both of these are two esophagus. This one has a sphincter muscle or rubber band, and this one has the same size rubber band. They're exactly the same size. The muscle is exactly the same size. However, inside of the stomach and the esophagus, there is a lining, a mucosal lining, much like the lining on the inside of your mouth. You know how, like, if you go in your mouth, you don't feel muscle, you feel like a slippery thing. That's the mucosal lining. This, on the right, has a thick mucosal lining. The one on the left does not. Being thick on the right-hand side, the sphincter muscle can close that off. The muscle's in the same place, but the lining allows the muscle to pinch it off. This one on the left, without the lining, it just goes right on through. Now, if you would flip this upside down, when the stomach agitates and contracts, if you have no lining in your esophagus, the acid can shoot up beyond that muscle.
Mm.
Or if you lay down at night, the acid can kind of just roll up past that muscle. Y'all with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
So what the doctors do is they usually give you something like Prevacid or was it Xanax? Not Xanax. Zantac. I don't know. They give you some medications anyhow that stops all the acid in here. It neutralizes all the acid in the stomach so that there's no acid to go up there. The only bad thing is that acid is needed to digest your food. If you don't have that acid to digest your food, the food ferments. And what happens is, as it ferments, it also produces acid and gas.
Mm.
And later on, you still get the acid shoving up to the esophagus. What I think is the wisest thing to do is to rebuild this mucosal lining, which is very possible and actually quite easy to do. When my mom came home, I told her two things. I said, one, you got to give up the coffee. My mom would drink coffee that was like battery acid. It was thick. We used to say, you put a spoon in there and you pour it out and it'd be dissolved. She really had strong, strong coffee. And she'd drink it very, very hot. Well, the coffee was eroding this mucosal lining. Coffee, tea, soda, those kind of things can erode that. Also, my mother's pH was off because her minerals were low. She wasn't eating enough raw vegetables. Well, towards the end, she couldn't. So if the body's pH is off, it will rob calcium out of the lower back, so your lower back nags you a little bit, and your joints, so maybe your hands get stiff or your knees get stiff. And it will take this lining out of the esophagus. It will break it up to buffer any acid in the body. So the first step we did is I got my mom off the coffee, which was not easy. You'd think that I was going to take her liver off of her or something. It was just, we fought so many times over that stupid coffee. But you know what? Whenever my mom did that, she got to the point that she was back able to eat baby food again, which is a huge thing. Then she took something called slippery elm. We're going to talk about that later on. And between the two, she was able to eat raw, pureed food again. My mother also had a hernia. I don't know if I could do this or not. No, so let me do it. I know this isn't very...
Did you replace the coffee with something else?
Yeah. Water is good. You could do herbal teas. Herbal teas aren't as bad, like red raspberry or apple cinnamon, something like that. But it should be around room temperature, not real hot. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, this is a friend of mine, Tara Belderock. And this is her son, I think this is Tommy. I don't know, she has 7 kids. It's kind of hard to tell them apart. But she's going to show you how to pull down a hiatal hernia. So this is what a hiatal hernia is. A hiatus hernia is whenever your diaphragm gets kind of stretched out so that the the stomach can shove up past the diaphragm. So she's going to show you how you can pull it down. Typically, if you go to the doctor and they find out you have a hiatal hernia, they put you on medication. If that doesn't work, then they operate on you. They pull the stomach down, then they take muscles and they wrap around it to pull it down, to keep it down. Well, this is something that you can do, and she's going to show you how to do this. Okay, there's no sound, so I'll talk through it. You find where the sternum is, like the ribs kind of meet here, with it right in the middle. That's where the sternum is. That's where the stomach is. It shouldn't be, but that's where it is. What you do is you firmly find out where it is. You put some pressure down on the stomach, and you pull it down. And you pull it down towards the person's right, your left, down and a little bit to the right. Then you find the ileocecal valve. The ileocecal valve is a valve between the large intestines and the small intestines. And it's halfway between the belly button and the hip bone. And you massage that, because sometimes that will stay open. So the pressure from the peristaltic action of the colon will push the stomach back up. Did you all see that? Let me do it one more time so you can see. So what you do is you first talk a little bit. You first find the sternum and see, she found the sternum where the stomach is. She pulls it down and a little bit towards the right of the person, because that's how your stomach is. And once it's down, then she finds halfway between the hip bone and the stomach. And what I do is I tell someone to put your pinky on your belly button and your thumb on your hip bone and curl your fingers, and it's right where your middle finger would be. That's exactly where the ileocecal valve is. And you massage it out. So you can do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to flash my grandkids. And if you want this link, she has given me permission to use it. If you want the link, you let me know, and I can email it to Denise. Remind me, Denise, I'll email it to you. And then Denise can send it to you. Okay? So the reason why she...
And you only have to do it... Do you only have to do it once?
Well, sometimes you have to do it a couple times. Sometimes you do have to go a couple times to do it. Sometimes a couple of days in a row, sometimes more than, push it and pull it down a couple times. But the reason why she went, instead of going straight down, she went down and a little bit, is to pull this down. So she went in this direction right here. Wait a minute. This way like this. And if you're doing it to yourself, what you can do is just take the ball of your hand and start to serve and just massage it down. Other things you can do is you can drink, first thing in the morning, they say to drink a large glass of water, like 8 ounces of water, and then jump on a trampoline. Or you can stand on your tippy toes and like fall down on your heels real hard, and the heaviness of the water will pull it down. So any of those things, just to pull that stomach down. If you do that a lot and eat a lot of pH balancing foods, that diaphragm hopefully should heal to the point that where it should be. See how there's like only 2 dots here and there's about 6 here? So it'll heal to the point that the stomach won't go up past the diaphragm anymore. Another thing that's really important is not to wear tight pants or a girdle. These Spanx, I guess they don't call it girdles anymore. They call them Spanx, whatever they are. But if you have a lot of pressure from your pants pushing up this way, it can actually start tearing at that diaphragm. Any questions about how to do it?
Oh.
And my mother did have a hiatus hernia as well, so we did this on her. Was there a question or? Okay. So, there's a way that you can tell whether or not you have a hiatus hernia without going to the doctor and getting a scope shoved down your throat. And that is by breathing. So I want everyone to sit back in your chair. And I want you to take a slow, deep breath. And when you do, your stomach should move, but your shoulders should stay absolutely still. If you notice when you breathe deeply that your shoulders go up, that's because this diaphragm cannot go down. Because the stomach, see, the diaphragm should be able to go down a little bit, but if the stomach is shoved up in here, it cannot. So you lift your shoulders to take a deep breath. Can everybody breathe from their stomach? Did you ever see a little baby? Most babies, they breathe and their stomach goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Their shoulders don't go up. Just their stomach goes up and down. That's how we should do as well. Another thing you can do, and we're probably all alone where we're at, I know I am, is have someone stand, plant their feet, and stand right in front of them and say, okay, now I want you to stand still. And you take 2 fingers and you push on their shoulder. I usually push on their right shoulder. And if they kind of lose their balance a little bit or they go back, then that indicates that they also have a hiatus hernia. If they push forward towards you, then that's different. They're reshifting their weight. But if anybody's ever took karate, your center of gravity is right where your stomach is. So if your stomach's out of place, your center of gravity is a little bit off too. So it's easier to knock you over or make you lose your balance. Someone doesn't go bloop, fall over. But if you do that and it kind of, go back a little bit, chances are it's because they have a hiatus hernia or hiatal hernia. You can call it whichever one Different people call it different things. Okay. Any questions about this?
No.
Okay, this is how sometimes it's misdiagnosed as heart disease, which is true, but it also can affect your lungs and your heart because your lungs are here and your heart is right here. So there's going to be more pressure on your heart, more pressure on that left lung. Okay. So things that you shouldn't do to keep your mucosal lining very healthy is no coffee, regular or decaf. They both have tannic acid. No black, orange, poke tea, no green tea, no white tea. No soda. No milk products, milk, cheese, ice cream, and yogurt. Butter, however, is okay because butter has a neutral pH. Or a whole lot of proteins. So don't go eating a 12-ounce steak 3 times a day. That's too much protein. It'll make you acidic. Stress can do it. I was my mother's daughter, so she had a lot of stress in her life because I was a terrible child. I was just headstrong, and she'd wake up in the morning and I'd be gone already. She wouldn't know where I was, and I just didn't mean to be a bad kid. I was just a bad kid, I guess naturally. I don't know. Poor digestion, if you don't digest properly, if you burp, and as you get older, that happens. I noticed last couple years, if I eat too quickly, I burp like crazy. So poor digestion can do it. Antacids is terrible. Antacids should be taken off the market. There's things found in nature that is much better. Antacids, all they do is they contribute to the problem. They make it worse. If you took someone who's absolutely perfectly healthy digestive system and you gave them antacids, they would end up with a digestive problem. Because your body, whenever you're born, your body says, okay, this is all the normal levels. And if you start going in this direction, the body will do whatever it needs to do to bring it back to the norm. So if you take an antacid, which takes your pH down really, really low, the body will try to produce more acid to bring it back up. Then you get heartburn. So you take more, and it just compounds and compounds. Another thing is, if you take antacids, you don't digest. So your body starts producing its own acid. Another thing that is not good is not to drink with your meals. Not even water. Because hydrochloric acid and enzymes digest your foods. If you put a fluid in there, it dilutes it. Water has a pH of 7. Your stomach's pH would be 1.7. So if you take 1.7 and you add 7 to it, and you average it out, you're going to end up with what? A 4?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not acidic enough to digest your foods. Sometimes people will say, oh, I just have too much acid. And I'll say, what happens? They'll say, after I'm done eating, I get this heartburn. Well, usually if you get heartburn after you eat, usually you're lacking acid. And the food is fermenting, and that's what you're feeling when you get the heartburn. And I will tell them, take some lemon, squish fresh lemon, not that little thing that looks like a lemon. That doesn't work. But fresh lemon and squeeze it. Because lemon on the outside of the body is acidic. As soon as you digest lemon, it becomes alkaline. One of those quirky things. There's like only 2 or 3 foods that are like that. So if you eat and you drink lemon with it, or vinegar, because vinegar is acidic too. I like lemon better because lemon does convert into something that's alkaline, while vinegar stays acidic, and then you're adding to your acid levels. But a lot of people, I'll say, if you're having heartburn after every meal, drink a little bit of lemon about 10 minutes before your meal. And they'll say, wow, that really worked. Well, that's because they were lacking hydrochloric acid. The lemon is very acidic. I think a lemon is like 1 or something. Sherry, do you know what the pH of lemon is? Is it like 1?
I can't even think of it offhand.
Okay, I just thought maybe you knew. Do you know, Denise?
No, but I'm looking it up.
Okay, no, you don't have to look it up. It's really acidic. I think it's like 1. So that actually corrects the pH of your stomach so it can digest the food. Another thing is whenever your stomach's at 1.7, that allows the pepsin that the stomach produces, which is an enzyme, to work. Pepsin cannot work in a neutral or even a 4.0. Pepsin is just, it doesn't work at that. So don't drink with your meals. I usually stop 1/2 hour before, and I don't start drinking again until 1 hour after, when most of the digestion has happened. I also believe in chewing your food long and well. I can't say I always chew my food long and well, because I've been a busy woman all my life, and I would bite, chew, swallow, bite, chunk up, swallow, because I had to hurry up and eat. And it's hard for me to get out of that. But if my digestion starts getting bad, I will take the time, make sure I chew long and well. Because the more you chew it in your mouth, the less the stomach has to digest because it's all broken down. It's like the difference between dropping a piece of candy or a sugar cube in water, it dissolving, or putting the sugar granules in the water. It digests faster because there's more surface area for the water to hit. Things that do help are eating raw vegetables, raw fruits, because these will help your overall pH in your body because they're very high in minerals. Another thing is enzymes are found in fruits and vegetables. If you take a carrot and you grate it, after a while you'll have some water. It gets watery. Or if you take a zucchini and you slice it, it starts sweating and getting all watery. That's because the enzymes are starting to break it down already. The enzymes that are found in the food. That's why there's some people that will drink juice and they'll say, this stuff is just wonderful. And then other people say, well, I buy the juice in the store. It's 100% and it's not doing the same thing for me as what your juice is doing for you. That's because the enzymes die within 20 minutes after you have injured the plant, the vegetable, or the fruit. They kind of just pecker out and they die, and you're not getting the enzymes benefits from it. Slippery elm. I love slippery elm. Slippery elm is what my mother used. This slippery elm got her to the point, because the next step was my mother was able to eat food again. She had to chew it really long. She had to eat it really slow. But my mom was able to eat a salad, was able to eat just about everything. She couldn't eat steak and she couldn't eat chicken breast. But everything else she could swallow. That was from cutting out the coffee, the tea, and by taking the slippery elm, which was a huge improvement. Huge, huge improvement. You can also do bone broth. I didn't know about bone broth when my mother was alive. My mother's been dead now 13 years. But I didn't know about the bone broth. But bone broth also heals the mucosal lining through the whole digestive tract.
Mary, do you make your own bone broth?
I do.
How do
Every
you make it?
Thanksgiving, I'm sorry, what?
How do you make it?
Well, okay, Thanksgiving's coming up. So we'll bake our turkey. Then, while everyone is doing dishes and doing stuff, I will take the bones of the carcass, and it's already been baked, which is important when you do bone broth, to bake the bones first. Then I break them up, and I put them in a huge thing of water. I don't know how big it is. It's probably about, I'm guessing maybe about 1.5 feet high, big pot. And I break it up so it's all underneath the water. I put an onion in, a little bit of salt in, and then I cook it all night long. Clean until the next day. So it's cooking close to 24 hours. Some people cook it for 3 or 4 days. I don't. But I do it for almost 24 hours. Then I drain it off. I put it back in the pot. Throw the bones away by then, of course. Put it back in the pot. Then I let it in the refrigerator for a couple hours, and then it gets like all the fats on top. So I can scrape most of the fat off. You want some of the fat. Actually, some people say leave all the fat. But I think it tastes better if you don't leave all the fat in it. And then we either make it for soup the next day, or usually we freeze it and bring it out later on. I used to make oxtail bone broth. You get the oxtail, you bake it, and then you do the same thing. I've never made like fish bone broth. It just didn't really seem. I have done pork the same way. When in Christmas time and stuff like that, we will have a ham bone, and we bake the ham, and then we boil it overnight. Do the same thing. Like I said, I like to put a little bit of salt in it, because that seems to really pull the stuff out of the marrow. But typically, except for the oxtail, typically when my soup is in the refrigerator, it's like Jell-O. That's how much that protein and all that good is. Hang on a second. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Making sure. All righty. Does anybody else make bone broth? I know people add vinegar to it and stuff like that, but I never found it necessary to do that. Okay. What I do, what I suggest to people, is to get 4 ounces of water and put it in a jar, like a little jelly jar or something like that. Then put a tablespoon of slippery elm in and shake the crap out of it. Just shake it, shake it, shake it. Because it doesn't want to mix very well. Shake it and then drink it relatively quickly, because this is a mucilaginous herbs, and the mucilins they hold on to the water and they get thick and slimy. And that's what slippery elm does. It gets thick and slimy. Kind of like peach syrup. Did you ever have peach syrup, like heavy syrup, and it's thick? Or like a maple syrup almost? That's what this slippery elm gets like. It does not taste bad, but not all people like the texture of it. And I'm one of it. I don't like the texture. The few times when I have heartburn, which is really, really, really rare, I will take slippery elm. I'll measure out a tablespoon, and then I take little pieces of it and put some in my mouth, and I kind of chew it until it's wet, and I swallow it. Because it doesn't taste bad. It tastes like a very, very mild nut. I rather enjoy the taste of slippery elm. It's just that slimy texture I have a hard time with. So my mother did this, and she got to the point that, as I said, she could eat most foods. Just some breads were hard, they were dry, and some meats. So she drank something that was called herbal beverage. I think they have Cafex and they have Postum, and it's kind of like something that has hickory and hibiscus flowers and things in there, but there's no actually coffee in it. Dandelion, there might be some dandelion in it. I think the one she drank had dandelion, hibiscus, and chicory in it. But she wasn't getting 100%, but she was so much better. I mean, my mother would have died very shortly. She would have starved to death. Then I said, Mom, you're drinking your stuff too hot. Because although she was drinking this herbal beverage, she was drinking it really hot because she always drank her stuff piping hot. What I did is I took a little piece of chicken breast and I tied it to a string, and then I took the string and I tied it to my middle finger. And I had the string and the chicken in my hand. I went over and my mom was ready to take a drink, and I put my hand over a cup and the chicken fell in the cup, and she kind of freaked out on me. You wasted this, and what are you doing? I did all. I said, Mom, I'm telling you, just wait a second. I pull my hand up with the string, and the chicken had started to cook. And I told her, your body does not have a cooling system. The body can heat things up, but the body cannot cool things down. So when you drink that hot stuff, it may not burn your mouth anymore, but it's still doing damage to the esophageal lining and to the muscle and to the stomach, because the body can't cool off. It stays that temperature for a long time. And she just looked at the meat, unbelieving. She said, wow. I said, I told you, don't drink anything hot. And she stopped drinking anything hot. Even her herbal beverage, she'd wait until it was like almost room temperature. Said if it's too hot for your mouth, it's too hot for your esophagus. She started doing that. And one day, Howard said, you have to go and watch Mom eat. And by the way, my mom used to throw up a lot because she couldn't get it down, and it would get that stuck. I went over, and my mom's eating everything, and she says, watch this. She takes a big hunk of chicken breast. She chewed it up, and she swallowed it. And I said, wow, just from cutting out the hot drink. She said, that was it. She said, but you know what happened? She said, yesterday when I was eating, it felt like something broke. And she said for the first time, it felt like it was opened in there. So I don't know if she had a tumor, and it went down into the stomach. She didn't throw it up. Or if there was an abscess, I don't know what happened. But my mother was able to eat everything. It's like she never had anything wrong with her esophagus at all. So she went to probably have to have her esophagus removed, probably because of cancer, because the doctor said, and he said, we'll do that and then we'll do chemo. So he suspected strongly that she also had esophageal cancer, to having nothing wrong at all with her esophagus anymore. The esophagus is amazing in how it can heal. But you can't drink anything hot. You can't drink coffee, tea, especially, or soda. Any questions?
There's not a question, but Sherry said when drinking slippery elm, drink lots of water with it and don't take with other herbs.
Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, right. Especially oils, because slippery elm is a demucilent herb. So it's like a sponge, like a bunch of little sponges. It will suck in nutrients. It'll suck in your B vitamins. It'll suck in your fatty acids. So it is best to do it in between meals. When my daughter's youngest son was born, my daughter had 4 kids in 3.5 years. She had them really close, and she had twins. The middle ones are twins. So she had them like bam, bam, bam. And poor little Derek had acid reflux all the time. He'd spit up all the time. And we gave him slippery elm when he was only a couple days old. And I have suggested slippery elm from birth. What doctors often do is they give the baby Prevacid. I can't believe they do that. I mean, how are those babies supposed to digest their food? But you can do slippery elm very, very, very young. It's non-toxic. It says in some health things, herb books, that pregnant women should not take slippery elm. That's a mistake. You can use it for heartburn, and you can drink slippery elm. What happened is, back in the olden days, they used to douche with slippery elm to cause miscarriages, much like they will douche someone with saline solution, which is salt water, to cause a miscarriage. But slippery elm taken by mouth does not cause a miscarriage. Actually, it doesn't even really cause miscarriage if you douche with it very well either. But that's just one of the things they did. Okay, any questions about any of that?
Nope.
Okay. So there's some other things you can take in between time. You can take stomach comfort. I don't like stomach comfort every day, but it's very easy to throw in your purse. Slippery elm, you don't want to carry like a tablespoon and a big thing of slippery elm and get some water and do all that if you're out shopping or at work or something like that. So stomach comfort, you can just pop in and suck on it. It's a lozenge. But it also has calcium carbonate. And as we talked about, I think it was last month, bicarbonates of any sort are not good for the heart and for the blood vessels. So I wouldn't do it every day, but to have in your thing once in a while isn't bad. Food enzymes, you can take food enzymes that help you digest better. Make sure your liver's working well so you digest properly. And there's something called ice wave that helps with acid reflux. And this is how you do it. I've never needed to do ice wave. Okay, and I'm sorry, Denise. I was helping my daughter, and I didn't get your information. So could you type your email and stuff like that and put it in the box, the chat box?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So, my mother was perfectly okay. Probably about 3 years before she died. I'm not sure, I didn't write these down. But a while before she died, she says, you know what, I keep forgetting my slippery elm. I said, are your symptoms come back? She said, no. I said, then don't do slippery elm anymore. And she didn't need it anymore. So not only did it help with the heartburn better than the medicines the doctor was always giving her, not only did it help the esophagus heal and that she could eat again, but then it actually got to the point that she didn't even need it anymore. It's illegal for me to say that it cured my mother, but I don't know if any other word that would be accurate either. And if it wasn't illegal to say that, I would. but I believe in obeying the laws, so I won't. Okay, so do we have any questions?
Mary, what do you think about taking apple cider vinegar?
If you take a little bit of apple cider vinegar with your meal, it can cause the acid to be high enough in your stomach, or the number be low enough in your stomach that the pepsin will work. So I eat apple cider vinegar with the mother with my salad. And I think that's fine. People, however, that drink apple cider vinegar in between meals, apple cider vinegar will eat away calcium. Matter of fact, when my kids were little, we did this as an experiment one time. We took 2 bottles, 2 jars, and we filled it with apple cider vinegar. We put egg in one, a raw egg, and we put a chicken bone in the other. And we put it in the refrigerator, and we let it set, I don't know, probably about a week. When we took them out, the eggshell had been completely eaten off. And the chicken bone was like a leg bone, like a drumstick. The chicken bone is like rubber because it's taken all the calcium out. People used to do apple cider vinegar because they had a lot of calcium deposits in their body. But there's better ways of taking care of that by taking magnesium. So the reason I'm saying all this is I know there's some people that take apple cider vinegar every day just because, and that's not the best way to use apple cider vinegar. It can actually add to your acidity. But if you do it with a meal, it'll help your meal digest so well that it won't produce any acid. So it can be beneficial if you do it right. Does that make sense?
Yes. So you only take like a tablespoon, or what kind of amount would you take with your meals?
Oh, I do quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably do about 3 tablespoons. I eat a huge salad too.
Okay.
My salad is, my daughter, whenever we make salad, she and her family eats half of it and I eat the other half. I eat a lot of salad. I eat enough salad that for a whole family. I love salad. Then I kind of like chew on it all night long. Graze all night long with it. Alrighty.
So what is that
So,
ice wave white? What is that? What are those, just
okay,
patches?
these are LifeWay patches, and you do 4 of them. This is very expensive, and I haven't seen anyone that actually ever needed to do this. And I've had people that had Barrett's esophagus, was it not Barrett's esophagus? Oh, is it Barrett's esophagus? Well, anyhow, people that have really bad esophageal problems, and I haven't had one person need to do this. To diet change, to the slippery elm, that's all they need. But this one would cost like $80. So we're talking like $320 to do this.
Yeah.
So you can do it, but the other's better. And this only works when you have the patches on. So you have to do it for long term, probably forever. While if you do it the other way, it gets to the point that you don't need to do it anymore. But yeah, you put these are acupressure points.
Cool.
Like acupuncture.
Uh-huh.
So you put the white here, you put the brown here, then you put the glutathione here, and you put the carnosine here. This glutathione helps the liver, The carnosine helps reestablish the pancreas, tail, and the spleen. And that's, excuse me, how you do it. And actually, this would be $240 because this and this come at the same time. I mean, it's the same pack, so you'd only have 3 different packs you had to buy. But this is the way to go. Love my slippery elm. And seriously, people will say, I'll give it to them, they'll come here and go, oh, I just got, this heartburn's killing me. And I'll get my son-in-law's slippery elm out and I'll give them a little bit and they'll drink it and they'll go, it's gone. It's like completely gone. It works very, very quickly. So it's not like you work on your nervous system and you have to see 3 to 6 months before you notice the difference. The slippery elm with heartburn, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and you notice a difference for that time. You'll have to do it over and over again, but it's fast acting.
Mary, would you give that if somebody feels like their food's coming up? Not exactly burping, feels like.
It could, because it could be the lining, whenever the stomach churns, it actually the food comes up. Another thing can happen is they could have a diverticulum. So right here, they could have a little pouch, especially if they chew and they don't chew their food good enough. This can get stretched out and they get a diverticulum, and food can lay in here. And that can come up. So it all depends. Well, actually, you know what? It doesn't depend, because what I would do in that case is suggest slippery elm, so it fills this in. So no, I'd still do slippery elm. But it's not necessarily a hiatus hernia or a thin mucosal lining. It could be a diverticulum.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, no one on the face of this earth has to suffer from heartburn. Nobody. So these 56 million people are suffering, and they don't have to. Your stomach and your esophagus, the lining rebuilds, what is it, every hour and 20 minutes or something like that. I had this one lady that the doctor said, you have stomach cancer, because it's kind of the same thing, just a little further down in the tubing. And he said, we're going to have to take your stomach out and tell them all the different things you're going to do to her. And she did food enzymes every hour and slippery elm. And she said, I feel great. And the doctor said, well, it's still there. And she said, I don't think so. He put the scope down, and he could not find cancer in her stomach anymore. And that was like a week, maybe 2 weeks at the most since I saw her. So like a week and a half, probably, by the time she got the herbs. And it was gone, completely gone, because the stomach heals so quickly. And by the way, people that have the constipation, if slippery elm is great for constipation, slippery elm is excellent for anyone who has the diarrhea, because it normalizes bowel movements, which is a little extra plus. It helps protect the lungs from being burnt from acid. Slippery elm is just a really good herb. Really, 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 really good herb.
Do you take that every day?
I don't need to take it every day. If I had to, I would. But I could eat nuts and bolts with motor oil, and I don't get acid reflux. or indigestion. Now that I'm older, I burp a little bit sometimes if I eat too quickly, but I've probably only had heartburn maybe 3 or 4 times my whole entire life. And half of that was when I was pregnant. You're talking about someone who eats 14 tomatoes in every 5 days. You know, tomatoes usually cause it.
Right.
Nothing. But you could do slippery elm. There's no toxic level to slippery elm. Matter of fact, if you ever remember your history when they talked about the men being at Valley Forge and the United States wasn't giving the men that were fighting at Valley Forge enough food to eat and they got dysentery, which means basically they were having horrible bowel movements, diarrhea. Some of the lining of their intestines would come out with the diarrhea. And American Indians said, just use the bark of this tree. And they used it as their food. So they survived the whole winter eating the bark of this tree. And the bark was slippery elm. That's what saved those men's lives and health. So they ate it as their main food. And they didn't overdose. Okay. Well, anything else you want me to cover, Denise?
I think you hit all the points.
Okay. Why don't you put a little plug in for your group that you have tonight, your Body in Balance, because I am going to post this with your permission on YouTube. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Because if you don't want me to, I won't.
I don't think we gave away any secret information. So.
No, I don't think so. So why don't you, you know what? I'll do this. Okay. So it's called Your Body in Balance, right?
Yes, your body in balance. And it's just a way for us to discuss health issues, also focus on weight loss, mental health, any aspect of health. And we have these classes, and we also have a Facebook group where I post information, encouragement, jokes every now and then. And
I know some of your jokes are hilarious.
You can also go there to ask questions about things that you're experiencing and get help that way.
Okay.
Mary, you forgot the R in your body.
Oh, you body. I'm from Pennsylvania. We speak funny here. Okay, your body in balance. Thank you. Alrighty, so, and then is your name on Facebook Denise Meredith?
Yeah, that's my name on Facebook.
Okay, so if these people would private message you, you could give them the link to the Facebook group?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. So what's next week?
Headaches.
Headaches. That's a good one. A lot of people have headaches too.
Yeah, y'all have plenty of those.
Okay. I've been divorced, so I don't have a headache right now. But alrighty. Well, thank you all for coming and for your questions. And if you need any help, contact Denise. You can always contact me, and we'll help you whatever way we can. Alrighty, well, you all take care, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hi, Mary.